and welcome back, everyone, to Jersey Beach Volley Podcast. I'm your host, Rohan Chatella, and today with us we've got another local legend, BJ Soldano. With multiple tournament titles under his belt, as well as many high finishes on the AVP, BJ might arguably be one of the best beach volleyball players to come out of New Jersey. Come take a trip down memory lane as BJ looks back on some of his fondest memories as a beach volleyball player. All right, everyone, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. And today we've got BJ Soldano on the podcast. So, BJ, thanks again for joining us. How's it going?
Things are going great, so to speak, with what we're dealing with right now. But as long as we're healthy and we're getting along, we'll make it through.
Definitely, I agree with that. And I think as long as everyone's staying indoors as much as they can and taking care of themselves, that's all pretty much all you can really do at this point. So I'm glad to hear that. So I guess before we get started, I was just kind of wondering, I know we've had a lot of quote unquote free time nowadays. So with that free time, have you been able to revisit any old hobbies or have you found any new ones?
I have not found any new ones, but my kids are starting to pick up volleyball. So I have not a makeshift court, but I have a net out in the yard, and it's grass. But there are four of us here. I have two children, so my wife and I get out there and we try and play with them as much as possible. They ask, it doesn't matter if it's 50 and raining or 70 and sunny, they want to be out there playing. Yeah. So I guess that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But it seems to end in battle a lot. So, no matter what teams we do, there is a lot of arguing. The four of us are ultra competitive. Mm-hmm. So that's not always the good mixture.
So you have to balance the hat between being a coach, being a competitor, and being dad. So
yes, and dad has to come first in those scenarios. Yeah. That is the big problem.
Oh man, yeah, you got to let them get a couple wins under their belt so they know what it's like. But at the same time, show them that you were actually one of the best to ever play and come out of New Jersey. So that's tough. That's a tough balance to have.
It's a very tough balance because I'm always in trouble. I'm doing stuff too, not too good, but if I do anything, it's like, come on, take it easy on us, so.
Awesome. Perfect. I think it's like a perfect segue then. We could just hop right into it. So I always like to inquire and kind of learn and understand about the people I'm talking with about their early life. And so with your kids kind of going through this formative stage in their lives, in childhood with sports and everything, for you, what was that like? If you could just give me a little bit about your background, where you're from, and what was life like growing up for you?
I grew up in Freehold. I still live here. As they say, it's freehold. It holds on to you forever. I have lived outside of here, though. After college, I moved around a lot. But you eventually come back here. I believe that it's a great melting pot here. Mm-hmm. You're exposed to everything, and you have the city life. You have Philadelphia. You have New York, obviously, and you can get exposed to everything, and you're not sheltered. I feel like here. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great thing.
Gotcha.
And for me, I played sports my entire life, but when I grew up, there wasn't a ton of organized volleyball. So I played everything else organized, soccer, basketball, baseball, and volleyball was just always secondary.
Okay.
So
out of those mentioned sports, which one was your favorite and which one did you feel like probably was going to be the driver in your athletic career before volleyball?
My favorite was basketball. Mm-hmm. But, I'm short and white. So that wasn't, those weren't like two, big check marks next to my name for that. But I loved it. I just loved the fast pace of it. Mm-hmm. But I played soccer in college. So that seemed to be the one that I guess drove me where I went and what I did. And I traveled the most probably for that one, aside from volleyball when I was playing that. Mm-hmm.
You said you're short and white. I beg to differ. You're 6'1" and white man can't jump. So I think you might think that of yourself, but that's definitely not true.
Well,
go ahead.
You look at the basketball world, there's not many 6'1" guys out there. So that wasn't, I had a lot of fun playing it. I just, I didn't think there was any, there was no aspirations to play in the NBA because of what I watched.
Mm-hmm.
It was like there weren't very tiny guys in there.
Gotcha.
But again, that's the same as volleyball also. So, I mean, it's a big man's game, even back when I was playing when I was younger. And, just a short little story, I would go to an elite camp or an elite, tryout, and they literally would separate you. Anybody over 6'3" goes to this court, and anybody under 6'3" goes to that court. I mean, it started, they didn't care how you played. It didn't matter anything. It was like height first, I mean, everybody always told me you can't teach speed and you can't teach height. You can teach people, hopefully the fundamentals of any game, but you can't teach somebody to grow more. So,
Can't teach genetics. That's true.
Yes.
And I understand you're a biology major. You majored in biology in college, right?
I did, yes, because I was going to go physical therapy. So that was my goal, which I did not go after.
So, but then as a shorter player growing up, who were you looking up to for, inspiration, and kind of who were you modeling your game after in all sports?
I would say growing up, I mean, I always watched Michael Jordan playing basketball. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he was not short. But I guess when I was younger, I watched a video of him, and he got cut from his varsity basketball team when he was a sophomore. And if anybody could ever imagine Michael Jordan getting cut from anything basketball related, you would think that was crazy. And I guess that he talked about that, because he was only, I think he was 5'11" or 5'10", like his sophomore year. And he got cut, and his mom, he went home, he was upset, and his mom just said, like, you got to work harder than everybody. It so happened that he grew like 6 inches by his junior year, which obviously does not hurt. But I guess the coach said it wasn't just his height, it was how much better he got at basketball. Mm-hmm. So, I tried not to let the height thing get in the way as much as trying to work harder than everybody else, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I didn't play a ton of organized volleyball, and I always catered to the beach because it didn't seem that height made as much of a difference.
Okay.
So I guess I didn't play a ton of indoor until probably like high school, I guess. Mm. But I played beach at like 11 or 12. As soon as they would let us play in beach tournaments, I started basically.
That helps. That definitely helps, just to get used to the sand, get used to what it feels like to move around in the sand, get used to getting weighed down when you try to jump. All of that helps, especially at that young of an age. So
yeah, definitely. It was definitely. I learned at a young age that ball control mattered a little bit more than anything else.
Yep.
Because I'd watch guys that were bigger, and pound the ball in warm-ups, and I couldn't reach the top of the tape. But I'm like, I know if I can keep the ball in the air, then hopefully, they can mess up. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of when I was that age before I could, so to speak, spike. Yeah. I tried to, out ball control them even at a young age.
I mean, you definitely learned that at a young age, and it carried through. So just, I guess, real quick, how are you stressing that to anyone you coach or your kids? Like, how do you stress that to someone when they're young and they don't kind of fully grasp that concept?
It's very difficult. I stress to my daughter, my older daughter is, she's lefty. So it gives her an advantage. Just because in any sport, lefty is different. And I try to explain to her that ball control is everything, because if you cannot pass the ball to your setter, whether it be in doubles, triples, quads, or sixes, the setter cannot set the ball. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, the most important thing is ball control. Because if your setter can't set it, your hitters can't hit it. So you could have the 5 or 6 best hitters in the entire country, but if the ball doesn't get to the setter, then the offense is doomed from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So, I try to explain that to her, and I think she gets it a little bit. It's just it's hard for them to think that boring thing, right? Everybody comes the slam dunk in basketball, the home run in baseball, and the kill in volleyball is the exciting aspect of it. Not the guy that passes the ball. Oh wow, you passed.
Yeah.
It's like a big deal. So
Interesting. So because that kind of fundamental was kind of drilled into your brain from a younger age, I would definitely say that you were studying the game from a younger age, right?
yes. I mean, I started. It's funny because my dad was stationed in Germany for the war, for Army,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they picked up volleyball over there. Europe is huge. Obviously, we don't have a professional indoor league here. We have a professional team. Our U.S. men's national team and U.S. women's national team, but there is no professional volleyball after college. But you can go overseas, right? Everybody goes overseas that's playing. So it was just more prevalent there. My parents learned it. They thought it was a very fun game. And when they came back, I don't even know how old I was, maybe 5 or 6. That's when they started teaching us. And I actually played with a piece of yarn. And I played with a piece of yarn and a balloon. And I played the both sides because, the balloon floats. So I could hit the ball over, and they told me 3 hits: bump, set, spike, and I would hit it. I'd run underneath the net, the yarn, and I would bump set. And I played in my living room for probably too long, hours, like at a time, and by myself, and that's how I learned.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always my parents just pushing something else other than baseball, basketball, and soccer, just something different.
Yep.
But I always loved it.
I think that's such a interesting story, and I think that really highlights how people who really love something, they'll make the extra effort in whatever sense of the game to really get their touches, get their reps, whatever it is. And it's like you can always work to get better, and even at a young age, clearly, whether it was a piece of yarn and a balloon or getting an actual ball, you were getting after it, so to speak. So that's a cool story.
They don't have the tools now. I don't know, when you picked up volleyball, but, my first ball that I brought home for my kids was a Volley Light. They didn't have that when I was a kid.
Yep.
And, a 5-year-old could not physically probably pass the real ball high enough, whatever, where the Volley Light is it's literally like a halfway between a ball and a beach ball. Mm-hmm. So the weight, lets them be able to start at a younger age, which is great. That, obviously we evolve and we learn how to, show kids at a younger age do those things.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So then I guess from a childhood kind of perspective, or like early adolescence perspective growing up, what would you say was the most difficult athletic lesson or just lesson in general that you learned?
I guess I would say to never quit, no matter how hard it gets, I guess, so to speak. Like I've always said, my height was always a disadvantage when these guys were 6'5", and I didn't go on to play volleyball in college. And I was discouraged because I was shorter, and I always just got shunned. No, not recruited, not anything. And then when I went to the beat, it didn't matter. If you won, you could sign up for a tournament, and they didn't say, "Oh, sorry, you're 6'1", you can't play." Like, that's just not how it was. It was, you sign up, and if you want to pay whatever it is to get in the tournament, you're allowed to play. Doesn't matter who you're playing. It doesn't matter how old they are. It matters who's going to win and how good they are. Mm-hmm. And I think that taught me at a young age that it didn't matter how tall you were. Mm-hmm. But, the coaches going to college, that was a specific thing that they looked for. And volleyball now is so much more prevalent that I think I don't want to say it's easier, because it's not. there's more options to go other places to play.
Yeah.
When I was coming out of high school and I played on a club team, we were easily the best in the state. We were one of the best in the country. And I mean, play against all the California teams, all the Florida teams, and we beat 98% of them. But that still didn't seem to matter because when we were going to college, George Mason was Division I, Penn State was Division I, and Rutgers was Division I. So you had three schools in almost an 8-hour drive, from Virginia to wherever Penn State is in Pennsylvania. I don't know the town, but that was it. Now there's just so many more places to play. I think, I don't listen. I'm not sure, but from what I remember, there wasn't a ton of Division II. There wasn't a ton of Division III. So it just wasn't readily available for you to be able to do, be able to just go play, just if you wanted to continue. So, and again, I played soccer. So that was when I started getting offers and able to play in college. That's where I geared to instead of going to play volleyball. And if you know how everybody always asks it, do you have a regret in life? That I loved college. I went to University of Delaware. I had a great experience. It's a great college, great academic. I got a good degree. But if I had to go back and redo it, I would have tried to walk on to play volleyball wherever and let them make that determination from where I was then and say, no, you're not good enough to play.
Did Delaware have a club team at that time? Because I know they do now.
They did have a club team, but it wasn't organized. It was basically if you could get 8 guys to just sign up and say, hey, we're going to play volleyball.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, I think that would probably be my biggest regret, was to just, walk on somewhere and just have them be like, you're not good enough, sorry. And then I guess I could change course and either, transfer or do whatever. And it's funny that you say club volleyball, is that I went to Rutgers for 1 semester just to play club volleyball after I graduated. I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but
I think Greg told me that. I think Digger told me about that. So you guys had a lot of success that season.
We had a lot of success and a lot of fun. Yep. I mean, that was they were all in like their 5th year, just finishing up, like just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, so to speak, in college, just finishing. I think Greg was getting like his teaching degree, and all the guys were there, and it's just funny that we all came together and said, let's give it a run. We'll play this this club thing, and listen, we ran it like, I don't want to say like a Division I program, but we practiced 3 times a week. We had a coach running our practices. He was a buddy of ours, and we listened to him. He set the lineups. Like, it wasn't run like, hey guys, let's just go play pickup. But I mean, we went to, I think Nationals was Reno, Nevada.
Oh,
and, yeah. And we went out there. Listen, we were strict. We curfewed. We did everything because we were playing against teams like Long Beach State. So they had a club team. They also had a Division I program, right? Yep. But when these kids ran out of their 4-year eligibility, guess what they did? They went for their 5th year and they all played club.
Yep.
So you'd be playing against teams that had 5 guys that played Division I. And we lost to Arizona that had, I think, all 6 guys had played Division I except for their one middle who, I don't even know how he didn't play Division I somewhere. But that team scrimmaged all Division I teams. Like, they played a Division I schedule. UCLA, Pepperdine, like they played all of them. And we lost to them in 3, but that just always seemed to be the underlying factor. If you were from the East Coast, you always came up a little short. So.
Hey, I mean, you guys got to still ball out against the best and put your name on the map. So that's still I don't know if people have done that since. I mean, when I played Rutgers Club for the last 6 years, and we had a lot of fun. And it's tough because it's really really tough to balance people wanting to have their college life with also wanting
Yes.
to succeed at a really high level in volleyball, because it's not a Division 1 program. So it's either you have that within you, and the six guys on the court together with you have that really within themselves, or it's just it's like a 75% effort, which I can't you can't ever say that's the wrong thing for someone, because everyone has different priorities. But I think it's really special when you get a group like that for you guys to all really want that together and go after it. So that's amazing.
I think it made it a little easier that it was all our fifth year.
Mm-hmm.
College didn't. We already experienced the drinking, partying, where it was like, hey, let's do something different, right? We're all going to have to go into the real world and change everything. So let's give this a shot.
Yeah.
And it was great. And we actually traveled to, they called it an Elite Eight tournament, and I think it was in California. We may have been like in Cal Berkeley or something like that. Honestly, I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing teams, we were beating them, but it was like the top 8 teams in the country. I don't know where we were ranked, or if we were ranked, or how we got invited. I didn't really care. I was just going to play. And I can remember how many people said, what part of California is Rutgers from?
They probably confused it with Redondo, because Redondo actually has the same exact the Rutgers are. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yes, yes. But it was just like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What part of it? We're from New Jersey. They're like, no, like they could not believe that these 6, 8 kids, 10 kids were out there in California from New Jersey playing against all these teams. They're like, what part of California you guys were? It was just funny.
That's hilarious. Oh my god. And to beat them, that must have been special. Definitely a memory that like probably brings you guys back together for, just whenever. It's just something nice to reminisce upon. So that's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was we always have a lot of laughs when we talk about it. So
is there anyone in that group that you would, like kind of not single out, but just like, who were the characters of that group? Who made that group really special? And I'm sure it was everyone, but like, who were the clowns? Who were more of the cerebral ones? Like, how did that dynamic work for you guys?
We were all pretty clownish. We were more serious than I guess messing around. Like we all wanted to go and win and prove that New Jersey could do it. And we tried. I'm pretty sure we tried to scrimmage like Princeton and Penn State, and they wouldn't give us the time of day because, listen, they have nothing to gain, right?
Yeah.
They have nothing to gain and everything to lose. And we just wanted to see like where we really were at. And, we kind of got that when we went to play the teams from California, just because it wasn't that they had Division 1 guys that didn't make the team. So you weren't playing the second level. So many of them had graduate students because they wanted to continue to play volleyball.
Yeah.
So we played against so many of them that had that. So we at least got a little taste of it. And, it was great. It really was. But once the tournaments were over, we always have we had a lot of fun, but everybody joined in. There wasn't, I don't want to say we didn't have any bookworms that were like, oh, I got to do work, or everybody went to the bar. We all had a couple cocktails. We all just had fun and told stories and laughed, and it really was great. It was a great group of guys. And I mean, I can remember one of the tournaments we played in Michigan. Some of us were working. We left at 5:00 in the afternoon, drove like 10 hours. The tournament started at 8. We'd be rolling in at like 3, 4 in the morning. And then the tournament went so long, you had to play the next day. We didn't have hotels. We weren't even sure what we were doing. We went there, we played. It was supposed to finish. We played like 2, 3 in the afternoon, and then a blizzard came in, and we had to drive. It took us like 16 hours to get home, and we all had class and work the next day. So like we had to get home, So it was little things like that. Those memories are are really they're priceless. You know, people say
Yep.
that, you know, but it really is true.
No, definitely, I agree. I think I have some of those too, so I'm glad I got to make the most of Rutgers Club. But I really like that you guys were able to take that experience and really push it to the max to see what you were able to do and like chase your dream on that club scene. So if we shift over to the beach scene, then we
Yeah, I
can
was gonna say,
dive a little deeper into that. So I guess
yeah,
before we
definitely.
go
I
into
got to
that
get
whole
out of the indoor volleyball.
thing. Yeah, so we'll take you back to your home on the sand. So before we get into that, I guess if you could kind of tell us, when did you start taking the beach game, more seriously, and who kind of taught you the game? I know you mentioned your dad was an influence early on, but was there more of a specific mentor that really helped you learn the game?
I mean, both my parents took an initiative, and
Hmm.
my mom loved it so much that she ran a program in elementary school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just teaching the fundamentals to fourth, fifth, and sixth graders. That's it. They just came. It was literally like intramurals. It
Uh-huh.
was just kids that maybe enjoyed the game in gym, but the gym teacher tried the best they could, right? They
Yep.
to teach them. But anybody that really liked it, that wanted to just stay after school and maybe stay out of trouble or do, maybe just do something athletic that it wasn't just baseball. It wasn't just, and there were a lot of kids. And my mom ran it with another teacher, Pat Eisman, who was a fourth grade teacher at the time. Don't know where
Hmm.
she knew volleyball, but she knew it also. And they ran the program for many years. And that's how I started with the fundamentals of volleyball. And then I always wanted to play. I went to a swim club and there was a beach volleyball court. So I played all the time. We always played sixes, but I played all the time. I mean,
Hmm.
just hours and hours and hours a day. And I just loved it. And I think I played my first beach tournament when I was 12.
Okay. Wow.
And at that time, it was JSVBA,
Yeah.
and there was B, A, and Open. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Hmm.
And like
So
you would sign
none of
up.
the intermediate or interfillers like
Right.
double B, triple A, all that stuff. It's just
There
three
there
levels.
were there were the next year. I think
Okay.
because the guy was so big. Like I think I entered the tournament. I think there was like 140 teams.
Oh, wow.
Because you had B, you had novice, so you had some really bad teams. Not that a
Uh-huh.
B player is a good team, but like you had some novice people, B,
Yeah.
and then probably some A. And then the A had the double B players, the A players, the double A players, and then you had the open players. And
Hmm.
I worked my way up. JSVBA had a thing. If you won a tournament, you had to play the next division. Didn't matter. You
Hmm.
had to play it. And I think if you back then, if you didn't make the playoffs 3 times in a row, you then could go back down to your own division, which
Mm.
I think is good. And I started to play there, and we won the first tournament. And it was B. It was nothing. I won a beach chair, but I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, right?
Yep.
And that was towards the end of the summer. It's the only tournament I ever played,
Hmm.
and I went home, and the next year things had opened up. There was I think he just had too many teams that in one division. So we were playing in the dark. I mean, and that's beach volleyball. You know, you run out of light and you're in the dark. It's what it is. The
Hmm.
next year there was double B, there was A, there was double A, and there was open.
Hmm.
So I started double B, and I just worked my way up the whole way. And I am pretty sure the first year I got to double A, maybe in the second year, we had won tournaments, but you didn't have to play open. Like
Hmm.
they didn't require you because number one, it was for money. So they couldn't make you play for money.
Yeah.
And I know at that point, there was actually a fee that you had to pay just to be an open player.
Oh.
So it either made you very serious about playing beach volleyball, or because if you were going to pay this fee, and it wasn't a lot, it was like $100 or maybe $200, right?
Hmm.
You were going to want to play more than one tournament.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to, oh, let's try open, right? well, the entry fee is $40 or $50 or whatever it is, right? Well, I'm not going to pay $100 also and get my butt kicked, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of separated you a little bit, and it made you play in the division that you probably should be playing in.
Okay.
But and then I don't think that worked, that fee, because he couldn't get the outside influence of Pennsylvania, Delaware, New York coming to the tournaments because that same reason. Well, I'm
Okay.
not going to pay $100 if I'm only going to play 2 tournaments this year.
I see.
So I think that hurt him and helped him because he had a serious fund. It was almost like a membership, basically. And I think some of it went back to a bonus pool that if you did well, but I think people were like, I'm not going to do that. I don't care how much the tournament's for.
Yeah.
So until he had big money, then the teams would come from Michigan and stuff because they're like, I'll pay that 100 because I think I'm going to win, and I'll make sure I get that back. But I think the first time I ever played open, that fee was gone. He didn't have that. So
interesting. That's like I've never seen that. Obviously, it's no longer exists, but that's an interesting way to try to draw and maintain a strong pipeline of talent.
yes, it did, and yeah, that was a long time ago, buddy. That was a long time
Things
ago.
have changed. Yep. Now anyone can play, and I think anyone should play.
Yes. I think that was 26 years. I may have been 16 at that point.
Okay.
Maybe even 15 or 16. So I wasn't, amped up to play against those guys anyway.
Who are those guys? Who are the big dogs?
The big dogs. You won't even know any of their. Well, actually, maybe. So back then, when that was playing, it was Doug Emick and Eric Pavels. Doug played at Rutgers Newark, Division I, and actually, I think, when did we boycott the Olympics? Was it 84?
No, I think we won 84 and the indoor
That's right.
ones, right?
Yeah,
we won 84 and 88, and then might have been, I don't know.
Was it? So obviously it was before. Was it 80? Didn't we? I know we boycotted for something. He was on the Olympic team.
Yeah, actually, I think I read that article.
80?
Yeah, he was on it, and then he didn't want to continue because it was just like too much time or whatever.
It was a lot of time. So he chose. He went to the beach and he played with a guy. I mean, they played for years. They were 40-something years old out there, still winning tournaments and stuff. And it was great. He was a good mentor to me because I was so young. I think I was 17 when he was, out there. And Donnie Satchow, I don't know if you know his name. He still plays a lot of grass now just because harder on the body, but a little easier to jump still. And
he plays everything. He plays volleyball. He plays like in other sport leagues, and like he wins everything he plays. It's just
super athletic guy, super competitive guy. That's who he's not the first person I played open tournaments with, but he's the person that I played the most with, as you would say. That was my partner when I played open.
Gotcha.
Prior to him, I played with friends that I played club with in that aspect of different levels, but he was the first partner that I played with, but not the first open tournament that I played, but he was the first partner. But I mean, one summer, I think we won 13 tournaments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So then go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you feel great, right? You're winning. New Jersey always had a great mecca of volleyball. It really did. It still does now, of the girls that are coming up that are going and playing beach volleyball places. We're like one of the higher recruited areas for volleyball, for beach volleyball college for girls.
Yeah.
And they always came here and stopped tournaments you don't know, but like the Jose Cuervo, the Bud Light. And if you won those tournaments, you got to travel and play in their national tournament. And that is where I got the first taste of like, wow, there's so much more volleyball outside of New Jersey. Listen, the AVP was back then. So I watched St. John and Karch and Kent Steffes, Adam Johnson, guys that I don't know if you even, obviously you've heard their names, Randy Stokely. I knew there was volleyball in California because that's where the AVP, that's where all these guys lived. But when I would win a tournament in New Jersey, like the Jose Cuervo, they would fly you to Florida. And that is the perfect example of bringing everybody together. They had a tournament in Michigan, so the winners from Michigan went. They had a tournament in, South Carolina. They probably had 3 or 4 stops in Florida. They had stops in California. They had stops in Hawaii. And they brought us all together. But it was still amateur, remember. You won money, but it was still amateur. You can't have any of these AVP guys in there or anything like that. It was guys that were trying to make that.
Yep.
And you would go down there, and we just would take a beat down. And you'd be like, holy cow, like, wow, I feel like I'm a king of volleyball. You're not. There's just country's so big, and it would put you back into your place.
Uh-huh.
And we won 2 years in a row. I went with Donnie. The first year, we got smoked. And it was guys just unassuming. You'd never even think they played volleyball. Just crush you. Mm-hmm. And then the next year we went down. We actually got out of pool play. And I don't remember if we won a game or not. Honestly, I can't remember. But I know we lost to, I don't even know. Do you know Sean Scott?
Yeah. He played with Johnny Hayden a lot. Yep.
Yes. Sean Scott, those were the tournaments he was playing in.
Oh.
Sean Scott and Pepe De La Ho.
Okay.
And he's an old school player. And we lost to them. And it was a battle. And I was like, holy cow. I was like, you can kind of hang with some of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And, you would stay and you'd watch all the people playing and who would win. And it would be a Florida team that would win when I was down there. And I was like, holy cow. Like, a Florida team kept up with the California, the Hawaii. And from that point, I wanted to outsource and go outside New Jersey at that point and look around. So just to see if you could compete a little bit. So I wanted to travel. That's what piqued my interest. It wasn't like, oh, I'm winning tournaments. Ha, ha, ha. It was like, I want to go to Virginia. Can I win in Virginia? Okay, I want to go to South Carolina. Can I, you wanted to start scoping and, so to speak, like a web. How far can I get into New Jersey and still win?
Yep.
So that's definitely, and listen, they paid for our flight and our hotel. It made it easy, right? Yep. You'd go down there, you get your butt kicked. Who cares? I was down in Florida. I had fun, right? Mm-hmm. So it made it easy. I didn't like hop in a car and drive 15 hours and get my butt kicked, or I didn't spend a ton of money going. Mm-hmm. So that was always a great thing.
Okay. So let me just correct me if I'm wrong. The way my understanding is Jose Cuervo and all the pipeline tournaments was when you kind of realized that, hey, this is not just some sort of pipe dream. I could probably actually go after this and, get some success through it. Is that correct?
A little bit. I think it was more, I don't know about the success because I didn't know yet at that point.
Okay.
I think it was, I want to see if I can.
Okay.
So it was like it was that burning question in your, like, is it me? Am I good enough? Right? Am I good enough to go and play with these guys? And, listen, I didn't play in a ton of qualifiers to get into the AVP. I don't know why. I'm not sure. So I don't even know if there was that back then. I don't remember when I was a kid. I was a ball boy at AVPs. I don't know where those teams came from. Like in golf, there's a Nike tour, and if you qualify, you get to play in 3 tournaments. Like I don't remember that.
Uh-huh.
And I do remember when I was in college, there was an AVP qualifying tour. And if you basically played on the tour, if you came in the top 4 spots, you played in the next tournament. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of that tournament, if you were in a certain section, I don't know if it was the winning team, points, so to speak, just like Gav has their bonus point thing, you have your points. If you won, or maybe you were the top 2 teams, you were exempt and got to play in all the events. Almost there was no qualifying, tour for you anymore. Yeah. There was that, but that went away quick. They tried so many things. And then it was the day before qualifier, right? And you play. But listen, the first tournament I ever qualified for the AVP, I played with a New Jersey guy. I played with Digger. I played with Greg Demansky.
Yep.
We lost in Belmar, which was the New Jersey, the home. There was a lot of pressure on us, playing here and they have an opportunity. It was, it was a lot for kids.
Yep.
And it left a bad taste in our mouth, like how we lost and everything. And we hopped in the car the next week and we drove I don't even know, 6 hours. I don't even know how long Virginia Beach is anymore. We drove right to Virginia Beach. None of our family came with us. And we just said, we're gonna hunker up, we're gonna pay for the hotel, and we're gonna play the next day. And we qualified. And I kid you not, the second we qualified, my dad and Greg's dad, Mike Demansky, and Mara, who they hopped in a car. It could have been 10 o'clock at night. They would have drove overnight. We had qualified. All of a sudden they popped in and they were there to support us. And to have that from your parents and your girlfriend, so to speak, and now his wife and, the love of his life. That was amazing. You cannot imagine how much the support system helps.
Yep.
People that say, no, go do that. Don't sit back on your heels or go do it. Go do it. And one of the biggest people, listen, my family, everybody said, go do it. When I told them I'm going to move, they're like, no one said, what are you, crazy? Like, what are you doing? And Jeff Wentworth, I don't know if you know him.
I don't think
small town guy. He was from northwestern Pennsylvania. He had like a stop sign in his town, right? And he got a full ride to Rutgers, Newark. Came here and he played volleyball. And I met him on the beach, and he said, "Go play. And you know what? When you come back, I'll give you a job if I have to." You know what I'm saying? Like he said, "Don't worry about work. You're 20 years old. You're 22 years old. You graduated college. Like you have the rest of your life to work.
Yep.
Go do some fun things." And he was really kind of the one that kind of like kicked me out the door and said, we'll get you working when you come back. Don't worry about it. That really, I think, helped because he did that. He lived in California for a few years. Do you know who Dax Holdren is?
Yeah. Play with Sean Scott sometimes too, right?
Played with Sean Scott. He played with Fenoy for years. Played with Stein Metzger. That's who he went to the Olympics with. I think they took a fifth, maybe. It was his best friend. Jeff Wentworth was Dax Holdren's best friend.
Okay.
So, and it wasn't like he said, "I got lots of connections for you. Go." Like you got to make it on your own. That's it. So that was a difficult thing just to pick up and go. So.
I think, but that's very powerful. I think I think a lot of people come to a kind of fork in their lives where you have to bet on yourself if you want to go after what it is that you love. And it's sad, but a lot of people kind of choose the safer path. So I guess for you, you kind of just described it, how it felt to finally go after your dream. But what were some of the more practical lessons you learned in going after your dream? Whether it was going out to California or just whatever, like it's nice to hear that and have the support, but I think there are also some like practical realities with that. So maybe just to shed some light on that.
Just always never quit, right? You can't have anybody tell you can't do it. Because number one, can't is a bad word in our house. And bored is a bad word in our house. You're never bored and you can't not do something, right? You have to just keep going for it. It's just the lessons. You don't quit. You work harder. And like I said, Greg and I qualified in Virginia Beach. I don't think I tried to qualify anymore after that. Tournaments were either too far. And the first time I ever was giving volleyball a shot, I qualified with Jim Walls, another New Jersey guy. And that was in California. And that gave you the small glimpse because before I went to California, I played with Jake Elliott here and in New Jersey, Maryland, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. We won almost every tournament. So like you knew you had conquered the East Coast. So I guess that's also another lesson. Like maybe don't shoot too big and build to it, even if it takes a little more time, because if you shoot too big, you might get shot down, I guess. right? And maybe, it may be a slow process. And that's how I did it. I worked and I played in New Jersey. I didn't just say, I'm just going to move to Florida and I'm going to try and play down there, because I may have gotten my butt kicked and said, oh, what the heck did I do?
Yeah.
I just worked. I moved south as far as I could get south to try and see how good you could be or what you could do. And then we went west. But remember, I still, the first one I qualified was with Greg, a New Jersey guy. And the first one I qualified with was Jim, another New Jersey guy. So, in New Jersey, we have great talent, great players that can all get it done.
Yep. It's just about finding the best way to utilize that talent and getting it done.
Yes.
Speaking of Jake Elliott, I know you played a lot of tournaments with him and you won a lot of tournaments, whether it was on the AVP or on like the Toyota Pro Beach Tour. I guess if you could kind of speak to what your playing style was with Jake, because I know he also wasn't a super tall player, but so in like relative reference, you guys were both a shorter team. So what was your style of play and what allowed you guys to have that much success?
We were the hardest working team on the beach because nothing came easy. We had to work for every point, every side out, every single second of every game. We rarely got a block, right? I mean, you can go back and serve the ball, and if your partner has 4 blocks in a game, it's 4 less points that your defensive player is playing, right? The blocker jumps up, he blocks the ball. So he expended energy, but not a ton of energy. Just jump up, block the ball. Jake and I didn't block, but we dug everything. We pulled. So the thing that changed Jake and I's game was the small court. Remember, I played big court. It was big court side out. So Jake and I, we had exceptional ball control. And we believed it didn't matter what you did, that we could side out against you because you had to serve it to us. We could cover the whole court, even on the big court, and we hand set every single ball. So when I played in New Jersey, remember, we don't have the greatest weather. It's windy, it's rainy, it's yucky. I bump set everything. And when I started to play with him, every time I bump set it, he'd catch it. He said, we don't bump set here. We don't bump set. Every time I bump set, I'm going to catch it, I'm going to roll it under the net, and they're going to serve it back to us, and they're going to get the point. It was the only way to learn. He said, if you gaff it, so to speak, you double it, whatever, you gaff it, we're not calling it. We're just going to play through it. Doesn't matter. But that's the only way, because if you gaff it and we call it, then you're not going to hand set because you don't want to give away a point, right? So that was what he taught me, was you're going to hand set every ball. Doesn't matter if it's spinning. It doesn't matter if it's on the back line of the court. You're going to hand set. If you can get your hands on it, you're going to hand set it. And that was our thing, is that we passed well and we hand set perfectly. So the ball was in a window almost every time. And I mean, that was our style of game. It was side out, but it was big court. So we would go back and jump serve as hard as we could, no matter what. We could miss 7, 8, 10 serves in a row. We didn't care. We were going to play the long game because it was side out. And if we could get our serve on, that was where it was killer for people because the court was so big and you'd have them in trouble and they'd be free balling or just not hitting a perfect shot. And it was doomsday for them. It really was. And I mean, Jake and I played a Toyota. I don't think it was a 15-point game side out. I don't think anybody scored more than 2 points on us. I mean, the final I think was 15-1, and we just went home. Like we weren't even breaking a sweat back then. And then they changed the court shortly after that, and it just made everybody says the court gets smaller. Yes, it does. But when the big guys get on that court, it got a lot smaller than that. I mean, it went from let me think. Fenoy and Dane, Eric Fenoy Moana and Dane Blanton won the gold medal in
Sydney
2000? 2000?
Yep.
2000, right?
Yep.
That was big court. They were both 6'4". They served extremely hard, and they were a great side out team. They were not, forget being favorites. They weren't even scratching the radar of trying to get a medal in that.
Mm-hmm.
They were as underdog as you could get. And yet they came out on top. They were just a great side out team, a great serving team. And then the court got smaller and they broke up literally right away. They played a little bit because you gotta give it a shot, but they went and both found bigger people to play with. Because you couldn't, no matter how hard you served, the teams were never in trouble, it seemed like. Mm-hmm. They were never scrambling anymore because that court was so small. Mm-hmm. And, that definitely hurt Jake and I big time. I would have liked to have at least played a year or two just to see what we could have done on the big court. It would have been a lot of fun to do that.
Interesting. So I know, from my understanding of the switch from big court to shorter court, I know a lot of it also had to do with just kind of television rights and making a product that's more consumable, that it doesn't require as much time, I guess. But I guess in general, would you say that the big court game is the better way to play, or is there not really a way to compare it? Or what are your thoughts on that? Should people just play big court more often to kind of learn the game?
For me, I liked big court better, but I was more successful in the big court. Mm-hmm. So I think so. Even when Karch and all those guys were playing, they needed to make a way that it was not bump set spike over. They needed more points in the game. They needed the game, and that's why the game went rally. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know if you probably weren't. How old are you, Rohan?
I'm 24.
Okay, so you weren't even born. And you weren't even close to born. When I was a kid, the tournaments would take too long. Not when I was playing, when the AVP was playing. Mm-hmm. So they tried a time limit.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time limit on the game. And then you got guys, when the game started to go, they would start skyballing the ball and their hits over just to kill the time limit. So the game was over when they'd be up 7-5. So that didn't work either. They weren't sure what to do. So they then went rally, right? Rally scoring. Now the game's going to end quick and you better win. Mm-hmm. And then they shrunk the court. There's goods and bads about shrinking the court, right? Number one, the ball's closer to everybody or it's out. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more digs. There's a lot more blocks. There are a lot more rallies. But it seems that the best teams still win. Yeah. So it's not changing the game so much. It's just making some guys maybe that wouldn't be as competitive on the big court more competitive. But the best teams still win. I mean, that's how it is. And obviously, they say the expression "any given Sunday" that any football team can beat somebody, and that is true. And it's kind of true in volleyball. It's just a little bit more far-fetched, I guess. Mm-hmm.
One thing I also wanted to kind of circle back on was when you were mentioning with your partnership with Jake, it seemed like there was an exceptional chemistry, because to get someone who, when you're constantly bump setting or whatever, is to get them kind of out of that fear of making that mistake and effectively communicating that so that they feel comfortable to try to get better at it. How does that kind of communication translate into maybe how you coach now? And how do you teach someone that effectively to not be afraid and just go for it? Because I think it's something we can all agree that's much easier said than done, because it's just a lot of pressure. That's one thing. And it's also, you want to play well while you're getting better. So how is he able to kind of help you break through that? And how do you carry that forward now?
I think you hit the nail on the head, is that it's easier said than done. But the way that he did it was that he caught the ball and rolled it back under the net. And if the other team's serving to you and he passes and I bump set it and he catches it, there's no rally. It was like, holy cow, if I don't hand set the ball, they put me to the fire. If you don't hand set, we don't play.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're going to serve every single time. So you're going to have to hand set on the second net. They would just keep serving him just to make me hand set. Mm-hmm. And, it's funny, but when I pepper with my daughter, you do it with what you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable bump setting. I'm comfortable passing, so I don't ever hand set. I have to. I don't yell at her, but if you can get your hands on a hand set, because if you don't do it, if you don't break that habit at a young age of hand set, doesn't matter if it spins. It doesn't matter if you do it bad. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Just you have to. You have to break the habit of all that of their comfort zone. And once they become uncomfortable and start doing it, that's the only way they can then become comfortable back again doing the skill that they're not used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
So they broke the habit of bump setting. That's exactly what they did. And I do it when I pepper with my daughter. Listen, when you pepper back with somebody, you pass, they set, you spike. Hopefully their pass is good enough that you set, they spike. That's good ball control. And that's how a pepper should go, correct? Mm-hmm. Bump set, spike. It's 3 hits. It's every other. And that's how you do it. And every time she hits the ball and I'm going to pass the ball, I am already saying hand set, hand set, hand set. Yeah. 3 times before. And it just puts in her head, like, I have to hand set. I can't bump set it no matter what. So, and it's funny. And she laughs because she's like, I got it. I remember. But as soon as I don't say it, she bump sets. So it's funny. Yeah. And that's all. I would just say breaking the uncomfortable habit of what's uncomfortable so that they can become comfortable again doing it.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So transitioning a little bit back towards your tournaments and the success. I know you got to play against Karch, or correct me if I'm wrong, in AVP Belmar. So
I did.
What was that like? Just walk me through the mindset. I know you kind of mentioned it when you were playing with Greg. It's a lot of pressure on you, but just what was that moment like for you and everything leading up to that? Because he's the king of the beach.
Karch is the king of everything. It was, listen, when we would come back and play in Belmar, I can't say enough about support. Forget, obviously, my parents, my family. I had roommates from college that would drive to come watch, right? So the support system that I had close was amazing. But when I tell you the towns, Belmar, the local beer distributors, when a local kid was playing, it wasn't like a local kid in a qualifier, like you were already in the tournament. Yeah. They made such a big deal about it. And it helped. I believe that if I was playing Belmar, if it was the first tournament that I had ever played, I don't know if I could have played. I think I would have been cement in the ground. But I had already played in so many other tournaments, which made me comfortable. It didn't matter. Oh, I'm playing, whoever. I've already played them. We've beaten them. We've lost them. So it made I was much more comfortable. But coming here, it always just, you rose to the occasion. It was just awesome. I mean, I remember playing on center court, which was insane, and winning. And playing Karch was, it's undescribable, right? It really is undescribable. Mm-hmm. Going out there, the pink Speedo hat flipped up. It's just the things that you remember about him. Even when I was a kid, this guy playing and winning. And he was still winning when I was playing. It wasn't like you were playing a washed up Karch. He was still winning. Like, he was still winning, playing with the best guys. And I don't know how he was always partnered. Like, if they were like, I'd love to just play a couple tournaments with Karch, or what it was, but he was still winning. So it didn't matter. It wasn't like, oh, I want to get this out, this was always my dream to play with Karch. No, they were playing with him because they were still winning. Yeah. And I played Karch twice, both with Brent Doble, once in Chicago and once in Belmar. And both matches are a battle because Karch was always just like the smartest player. He wasn't the overpowering Mike Lambert, Phil, Delhauser. Like those guys, it didn't matter what we did. unless we were going to try and serve Phil off the court, you had to serve his partner. It didn't matter. 6'9" is not. He's probably laughing, playing against 6'1" and 6'1". So, and listen, I grew up playing against Phil my whole life. He grew up in Florida. Mm-hmm. So,
and you beat him a couple of times on Toyota, or
we used to beat Phil down all day long. All day long. We did. We beat him down. Phil was just like the coolest, calm, collected, like didn't care if he won yet. And Todd Rogers really put that fire under him.
Oh, yeah. Todd is hilarious.
And, he played with Nick, who was like a childhood friend. Mm-hmm. And listen, they play now. And I'm so happy. They've always stayed friends. And I really believe that Nick let Phil spread his wings, so to speak, mm-hmm. when they went out there. And, listen, they won their first tournament together. So that's an amazing feeling to play with a childhood friend and win their first tournament. But then listen, Phil was a sought after commodity. Yep. 6'9", handset, almost raw. No one had really taught him, everything about the game, right? Because he didn't grow up playing volleyball. Mm-hmm. He grew up playing tennis, and that's why Phil was an athletic big guy, because he played other sports. And I think, getting a coach under him like Todd and really honing his skills really set Phil off. But I love that Nick and Phil play back again together. And it's not so much about the winning and the money, but them traveling and having fun and seeing the world. Listen, it's always about the money and winning. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't get to that level without that. But it's maybe not as much pressure for them to have to do those things. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that is awesome. That is a great thing for them to experience as lifelong friends also.
Definitely. And I think you kind of alluded to that earlier when you get to play with an NJ guy, like in these qualifiers, in these tournaments, whether it was like Greg or Jim Waltz, whoever it is, like that's something special. And especially because New Jersey, we're still not necessarily known in the beach volleyball community for in that respect. Like we don't have any super like a Phil come out yet. So it's just when you have success at your level and you can put New Jersey on the map, that's something, those are the stories that get passed down from one generation to the next. And that's what builds up the pipeline. So
yes, I mean, Ryan's doing well.
Ryan.
He's doing well. He's doing well. I mean, he's not Phil, but listen, if Ryan was 6'2", would he be doing the same? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. You can't say that. Again, you can't teach height. He's 7 foot. He's a commodity. No matter where he goes, he could walk on a basketball court and have never touched a basketball. And if he walks up looking kind of athletic, he might be the first pick, right? If you're playing pickup basketball, he's 7 feet tall, right? I mean, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. We do okay. I mean, New Jersey, it is when you go somewhere and you play with another New Jersey guy, it's great. Not because the East Coast snubs us, because the West Coast snubs New Jersey and the whole East Coast. I mean, those guys, they just I don't want to say respect, because even when you qualified and you played and stuff, they have their own little niche out there. They don't really let anybody in into their inner circle. You really have to move out there and really, they got to learn to trust you that you're going to show up for practice. You're going to do what you need, what's needed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was, that was the best part. After stopping and working, Jim Walls and I would still play Belmar.
Yep.
We'd have to go through the qualifier. I don't know if we were automatic entry one time, but I know we played in the qualifier. But listen, the qualifiers out here are a little bit easier than other places. So we kind of walked through. But you know what the greatest part was when the team would look across the net and go, crap. Like, I remember these guys. Are they still playing a lot? Like, that's not what you wanted out of a qualifying team.
Uh-huh.
You wanted to look across and go, up, haha, 2 local Jersey, 2 local New York, even though we were local Jersey, but they're like, dude, I've played these guys. I played BJ 10 times. He beat me 8. Is that who I want to play right now? Now, listen, I guess if I was like 50 pounds overweight, they would laugh, ha, 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 I can't believe you got through the qualifier. But we weren't, because we're only a year or two removed.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was always the funny thing, just not that they feared, but it was like, oh, man, I'm going to have to work to get through this match, things like that.
Yep.
And, Jim and I made a little bit of noise the one year. We had won a couple games, and Jim's going to kill me for talking about this, but and he can always, if you ever get him on a podcast, he will talk about it also. It was probably one of the worst losses I had ever had, and not by score, by feeling. We were in the losers bracket, and we were playing Scotty Wong and Paul Baxter.
Okay.
And we went to game 3. And we're in the losers bracket, but they're in the losers bracket, right? So, it's you're one and done at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim and I we were on fire. We were on fire. And the tides turned. You're going to kill me. It's a game to 15, right? Rally. I think we may have been up 9-3.
Okay.
And we lost.
God. I don't want – oh, no.
Yeah. And we crumbled. We couldn't get – it was just that – not being still playing at that level where I think 1 point by them turned our mental game into just mush.
Yep. It's like a tsunami. You just can't help but feel like, oh crap.
The tide had turned.
Yep.
And they got a couple breaks, and listen, they beat us. Don't I am not saying that we threw the match by any means, but they got a couple breaks. And that really broke the camel's back. And the worst part is they went on and they took a 5th in the tournament. And Jim and I could have beaten the teams that they went on. The next team was in full cramps. It was, I don't even know if you remember Loyola.
Oh, yeah.
Loyola was the next match they played. And he was playing with Ingenio. Okay. And Loyola – it was hot and it was humid. He cramped up. So they literally walked through the match. They just walked through the match. And that, I think, it wasn't losing to Scotty and Paul. It was that they continued to win. And we were beating them. Would we have went on? So it was that what if, right? Would we have won 3 more matches and taken a 5th as a qualifier? It was those things that made that loss tough. And that you'll always remember it. Yep.
And again, all the good has to come with the bad too, and you have to appreciate both sides of it. So again, I know we're getting closer to the end of the time, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. So just a couple more questions, but I guess that could be a good note to kind of the transition out of volleyball. Now you have a family, you have responsibilities, and so I guess from the whole journey. And you still get to play once in a while now, but the whole beach volleyball experience, what would you say are some of the big pieces of wisdom, or those big pearls of wisdom? What would you say those are, and how do they apply to your life now?
I would never say that I ever wanted to go work after college. Chris Makos is from Pennsylvania, and he went to California. He was playing beach volleyball. He told me, this will always stick in my head. He said, if you can wear flip-flops to work, you got to do it as long as you can. Right? And that always stuck in my head, to see how long you could play volleyball. But listen, in the 90s, I guess, there were 40 tournaments or something. I think there were 40 tournaments, 40 weekends of tournaments on the AVP. And these guys were killing it. Listen, killing it is also a relative term. They were not making basketball money. They were not making golf money. They were not making baseball money. They were not making football money. They were making a great living for what they were doing, right? A volleyball player did not get paid. They didn't, go sign with Nike for $30 million. And I know in the 90s, that's not what the football players were making anyway. I'm not saying that, but it was much harder. There were not the sponsorships and everything that you could, the endorsements that you could try and get afterwards.
Yep.
And I really wish that had held because they were making a great living. But right now, these guys that are playing, the top 8 guys are making a living. Back then, like 40 or 50 guys, you could play in tournaments and make a really nice living.
Yeah, everybody
And
ate.
yeah, everybody ate. And that was a great thing. And I got to a point, there were 8 or 9 tournaments or 10 tournaments. I couldn't live on that. I couldn't start a family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing because I basically traveled some of the world and most of the country for free. Whatever I was making, I was spending. And that was okay because I was young and I didn't need to stockpile money at then. I didn't have any responsibilities.
No Corona back then.
Yes, no Corona back then. But now, I have 2 kids and, you have bills and you have mortgages. So, life changes for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have given that up and I wouldn't give this up. I love my family. I love my wife. We still have lots of fun. They're just different laughs and memories. Now the memories are, I don't travel to the beach to go play volleyball and get sandy and dirty and sweaty. I travel to the beach to go sit and relax and have memories.
Mm.
So they're different memories. They're different pictures. And, those are, to be able to do both things, go to college, chase my dream and, somewhat succeed and then move on and go to another stage, another chapter of a book in my life, come back and work and, be successful, make money, pay bills. That's reality, right? I mean, like I said, volleyball is not the sign of $50 million deal and say I can ride off into the sunset no matter how old I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you can always chase your dreams for a little bit.
Yep.
Don't ever let anybody say that you can't. So
everyone listening, take that piece of advice to heart because it's definitely a common theme. Chase it.
Yes.
You never know what can come out of it. And what's the worst that happens? There's no worst. Just got to go after it. So with that, last segment is your choice. You get to choose between rapid fire or are you smarter than a 5th grader? So I'll let you choose what you want to do.
Definitely rapid choice. My daughter's in 7th grade. I think she's been smarter than me for a few years, so I don't even want to go down the 5th grade path.
That's fine.
I'll go rapid fire.
Okay, cool. Perfect. All right. Your first question is, what is the best heckle someone has hit you with?
The best heckle?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's how you started me rapid fire. Holy mackerel. I guess I would say it's definitely Dana Camacho.
Mm-hmm.
And this is definitely takes the cake. After he shot a ball, and Dana was a master of ball control. Mm-hmm. He shot a ball over on 2 and, you're chasing it down. And literally, if I was 2 inches longer, I would have got the ball. And he looked under the net and he goes, man, I didn't know there were sea turtles in Jersey. And, all you had to do was laugh because he's this tattooed kid, Yeah. But he was funny and he was witty, so that was good.
Okay, perfect. All right, so on the contrary, what was your favorite heckle or like piece of trash talk to hit someone with after you scored a point?
I didn't trash talk much. We did it in practice, but I think maybe trash talking. You respected a lot of the guys that you played against so much, and maybe the refs didn't let you do it. But I guess I can remember one time that mine was almost more out of anger because we played Steinmetzger and they cheated. Steinmetzger and Kevin Wong, they cheated. They erased the ball mark. They erased the ball mark. They erased it when the ref was going to it. And they got red carded. They got it.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They got red carded, the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
And we scored like 3 points in a row. We sided out and gotten like 2 points in a row. And we both looked under the net. Jake and I were like, cheaters never win, and we hadn't won the match yet, So like, it was still like funny that we were screaming that at them. And, that would probably be, my biggest heckle, but it was more out of anger. It wasn't out of like heckling them.
That's perfectly justified. Awesome. Okay. So what song is stuck in your head right now?
What song stuck in my head? Playing volleyball, I always listen to Metallica, and always before matches, I always listen to the One. If you, it's an older Metallica song, but One from Metallica would be what was always in my head when I was playing volleyball.
Gotcha. Favorite drink?
I only drink water, but if you're talking about cocktail, it's beer.
Okay. And favorite vacation destination?
That's a tough one. I would go Hawaii for summer and Colorado for winter.
Gotcha.
Can I pick two?
Yeah, that's fine. And then last question. Your favorite go-to shot? Was it always a high line, a cutty, or just obliterate the crap out of the ball? Oh, cutty. Okay.
Cutty. Live and die by it. Live and die by it.
Oh man, I think that's what Josue said also. And he was like, after he hit the cutty, he'd be like, "You never had a chance, man. Like you never had a chance ever."
Who said that?
Josue.
Oh, wait, did he say that from me?
No, he's like that was his thing. When I asked him like high line, your 10-foot line, he would hit the cutty because that's his favorite shot, and he would just always across the net be like, "You never had a chance, man."
Oh
never.
Yeah, I love Josue. He has fun playing the game. He has fun playing the game. So Cuddy, listen, you can't get close enough.
Yep.
Just move it in. If you're on the 12-foot line, I'll hit it on the 10. If you're on the 10, I'll hit it on the 8. If you're on the 8, I'll hit it on the 6. If you're on the 6, I'll hit it on the 4. And then I'll jumbo you so that you back up, and then I'll start back over again.
It's like you're a puppet master. You're just playing the marionette. You just make them dance.
Yep.
Awesome, BJ. Thank you again so much for joining me today. I thought this was awesome, and really appreciate all the insights you had to share. So thanks again, man.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
No problem. Have a great rest of your day. All right. Take care.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.